Yeah, I think it's helpful starting out with any sort of pursuit where you're trying to work with a living organism or grow something to really observe the process. And so, a lot of times, I mean, my first mushroom growing experience actually was in college. I went to a farmer's market, bought a grow kit from a guy who was selling mushrooms there, it was just a bag of straw covered in oyster mushroom mycelium and poked some holes in it, and nothing happened for a few months. And then one day I looked in the corner and there was like 2 or 3 pounds of oyster mushrooms growing off it when I kind of neglected it. So I think for a beginning setup, it's really great if you need to have like some sort of extra room or space, but then just get some grow kits, whether it's sawdust based or straw based, just some mycelium substrate that where you have maybe a rack or a shelf in your house or in your garage where you can set those up there, and you can be growing a pretty good amount that way. And then once you want to start like doing more of the cultivation yourself, there's good low tech methods that don't require a whole lot of equipment. You can use more passive things like cold water fermentation, where you just soak things in cold water and then strain them out, put them in, say, a 5 gallon bucket with holes drilled in it, and then add some mushroom spawn and grow it out that way. And that's a pretty solid way to get going, and all the materials are reusable. But in general, doing some sort of indoor thing, it kind of starts with having a section of your house that you can kind of dedicate to that you don't have to worry about if it's going to get a little wet or stinky or moldy, because you don't want to grow mushrooms on the frame of your house. That's one way. And then there's a lot of great outdoor techniques too. And all these things, if it's the right season, you can just set it up outside if you got somewhere with shade. And then also kind of incorporating mushrooms into an existing garden or landscaping setup is a good way to do it too, because you can grow mushrooms off of mulch and wood chips and things that you might already be putting in your garden, in your garden path, or kind of co-planting it with your vegetables and things like that. I think is a yeah, kind of the good basic small scale way to get going.
Right on. I mean, as far as small scale and low tech, I've only ever really grown in urban areas. I've only had one larger farm, and it was kind of, I don't know, experimental, so to speak. But I mean, right now I'm just cultivating mushrooms in a shed in my backyard. It's about 9 by 12 shed, capable of producing like 20 plus pounds of mushrooms in there every week when it's not even at full capacity. So you're plenty capable of growing mushrooms in a very small scale without a lot of input. I mean, all that I have in the shed, it's not insulated. I have a small heater in there. I have a small humidifier in there. I go in there and I mist the mushrooms multiple times a day with a little garden spray tool, and and I have a portable AC unit in there for fresh air exchange, and it helped to cool it down in the summertime. So you don't really need much, and a lot of whenever I learned how to grow mushrooms, I learned a lot on YouTube. I often tell people I'm like a graduate of YouTube University, but on YouTube I found a lot of videos from South Asian countries and India and stuff like that, and um, they're growing in bamboo structures that are covered in clear plastic or tarps and things like that, and just spraying a bunch of water in there. So I mean, mushrooms really don't need much. A lot of people put a lot into like making these high tech facilities, which are great and they're very efficient. But I think it's important to understand that it's not necessary, and you can get large yields and quality mushrooms with not a lot of input. Growing on urban waste products like coffee grounds and spent brewer's grain and things of that nature can really decrease the amount of money that you're putting into it. And then using reusable growing containment units like buckets and things of that nature is also very efficient. So um, it doesn't have to be complicated, and you can get a lot of really good results with minimal input.